we get ready to close out 2021. It's crazy to think the NFL season has come and gone. I mean, that's exactly where we're at as we start to dive into Week 17, recapping a Week 16. And Lloyd, always good to talk to you, my friend. How are you?
Doing good, Q. And you're right. The season's going way too fast, and I'm happy to start talking about some playoff stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It started with Thursday night's game, Titans over the 49ers, 20-17. And then you look at those two games on Christmas Eve. The Packers, a nail-biter against the Browns. I love teasing that game. I also took the Browns. I hedged with the points, so you tease it down 1.5. It's a push. And then you had the Colts on the road. Little surprising there. Let's talk with that Browns and Packers game first. I mean, we always go back to the officiating, right? It seems like we go back to the officiating, and then marquee spot, national game, ton of eyeballs, Browns and the Packers, and you can make the case that the Packers got away with a hold late in that game.
Yeah, some are definitely debating that. And, Rasul Douglas, a former Eagle, he had 2 interceptions in that game, and he was the guy that came over the pick. But, in the end, you have to point to the way that Baker Mayfield played and played terribly, to be quite honest. He had 4 interceptions in this game, did not step up when they needed him to, and then the Packers are a good team. They found a way to win, and the Browns, unfortunately, they're reeling. Last year probably was their apex when they beat the Steelers in the playoffs, and they just seem to be kind of falling back to the back right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a lot of issues, especially COVID-related as well. And then you got the Colts on the road against the Cardinals, and once again, I just cannot, for the life of me, figure out this Arizona team. I mean, it's unbelievable. And now, they're still right there to make the playoffs, but they've dropped 3 in a row. They cannot win a game at home to save their lives. I've never seen anything like it. Would they win 2 games this year at home against the Vikings and the 49ers? They had an opportunity again the other day against a Colt team that, I think is good. I don't think is great, and they spit the bit on that one. I mean, that's a banged-up Colt team that took advantage of a Cardinals team that just did not show up.
You're right, Q, and you think at home that they'd be able to protect their home turf, and they were getting back Edmonds in the backfield, and I know they didn't have Connor, who had the heel injury, but, for the most part, they were pretty well-stocked and ready to go in that game, and the Colts they just did what they wanted to do when it mattered most in this game, and particularly Carson Wentz. He never made that big mistake, and he had that huge touchdown in the back of the end zone. He played very well in the game, and then you look at Kyler Murray, he just was frazzled, and he continues to not play like himself because D-Hop is not in there, and they just do not have other options for him. So, a lot of bad penalties in this game, particularly the offensive line was a mess without Hudson. That was a guy that I forgot he didn't play because of COVID, their center, and they had a lot of missed snaps, particularly that caused that safety. So the kicking game as well was very bad in this one, too. The Cardinals, as you're saying, they're reeling, and they backed their way to the playoffs, and they have a huge game this week against Dallas.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Colts. I mean, how about the way they're running the football, right, with Jonathan Taylor? 8 touchdowns the last 5 games, a buck 85, 83, 143, 170, 108. They run like that. They play a little defense, and as you alluded to, the quarterback doesn't make mistakes. I don't know. Would they be the biggest threat to Kansas City, or do you look at a team like, say, Cincinnati that can score a lot of points? I mean, right now, I don't think it's New England, and I don't think it's Buffalo.
Well, the thing about Indy, and then you always like to see this in the playoffs, is they're number 1 in takeaways, so they do a great job defensively getting the ball back from. And then, as you were saying, when Taylor rushes for 100 yards, they are 9-0. So that just shows you they can control the clock, shorten the game. And if Wentz does not make mistakes, you're right, they're going to be a hard out, and they're going to get Leonard back from the list. And, they're a team that is dangerous. They're probably going to be on the road. We'll see if Tennessee can hold on and win that division. But, the Colts are a team under Frank Reich that look good going to the playoffs.
I can't figure out, too, even the Rams, it's not like they were extremely impressive against the Vikings. They needed that special teams punt return to kind of spark them. And then you look at Cousins, puts up good numbers again. We'll talk about him in a moment. But I look at Tampa, Green Bay, not yet with Arizona, Dallas, the Rams. Right now, would you say the Rams are built to maybe go in and beat a team like Tampa, Green Bay, or Dallas, or are you just kind of still not entirely sold on the Rams making a deep run into the playoffs, where, let's be honest, it's all there for them because they made the move for Stafford and they brought in OBJ.
Right, and now it's proven time for Stafford. We've never seen him really excel in the playoffs, and this is an opportunity. That roster is just built for the playoffs. Defensively, Aaron Donald, Ramsey on defense, and then offensively, you have a lot of weapons. Sony Michel's even stepped forward. He's the leading rusher in the month of December right now in the NFL. And you're right, they are a dangerous team. They've already beaten Tampa Bay. That was their signature win. They beat Arizona. They split with them. So, we're going to find out a little bit more these next couple weeks. They go on the road at Baltimore, shouldn't be a weather-type game, and then they finish with San Francisco. So, when I look at the Rams, they are built right now to do some damage, and they're probably going to win that division, so they will get a home game.
Do you think Zimmer returns, and if so, do you think Kirk Cousins is the quarterback next year for Minnesota?
Well, that's a huge one. Ziggy Wilf is the owner there, and he's definitely looking at everything. Rick Spielman's been the general manager for quite some time, and Zimmer, we've talked about this a lot. His team they faded, this season, and he's been there for quite some time, and he just can't seem to get over hump. The NFL now is so offensive-centric, and you have a guy, he's a defensive mind, and he kind of just can't get his team over the hump. So I think Zimmer probably, they'll step away from him. They're 7-8 right now. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. The Eagles probably hold on to that last spot there, and then you will see a change in Minnesota. And Kirk Cousins may be damaged as well. Why not just start building it from the bottom up with a new quarterback as well?
Man, remember, too, still dealing with some of those injuries to that rib. To his ribs. I like Kirk Cousins. I think he's a serviceable quarterback. Can he put you on his shoulders? I don't know, but can you win some games, put some players around him? Yeah, absolutely. Then you had the Bills. This was a I need to shut up people type of effort by the Bills. Like, all of a sudden, the naysayers, I love Buffalo in this spot, never doubted them going on the road against New England where, we had Belichick, boom, winning the Coach of the Year. But the Buffalo Bills needed this game, not only for their playoff lives, but if they want to try to capture the AFC East and to stop the bleeding a little bit. They had the bad loss to the Pats early on when they couldn't score. They gave up too many against the Bucs. They came back. All right, not a bad performance against a bad Panthers team, but they needed this win against the Pats.
Yeah, Q, this is a proven-type game for the Bills, and their MVP candidate, we thought coming this season, Josh Allen, and Allen stepped up in this one. 30 of 47, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he led them in rushing again with 12 rushes for 64 yards. And he was spreading the football around. He hit Isaiah McKenzie over and over again, who had 11 catches, 125, and a touchdown. And they showed you that they were going to be aggressive in this game. And even though it was on the road, they weren't going to feed Belichick and Patriots. And they showed it on fourth downs. They were 3 of 4 in this game. So they kept converting, moving the football, and making great plays. And Allen was able to close it out. They're now on a 2-game winning streak. And I think they're going to go ahead and win this division. So their team definitely going to have to watch. They have Atlanta, and then they have the Jets. So they probably should come into the playoffs pretty hot.
Bad pick by me on the Steelers. You might as well just ride out Kansas City going forward. They win by 26. But sticking with the AFC, really disappointed in the Chargers. I mean, look, you want to give the Texans credit. They're not a good football team. They put up 41. Really disappointed with the Chargers because they could have made life a lot more easier for them. And in years past, all these games that they were losing close, they figured out how to win this year. But boom, look what goes on, right? They had that loss against Kansas City after they looked phenomenal against a bad Giant team. They were in that game, and then they give up 41, and they lose to the Texans. So if you're a Chargers fan, I mean, you're not going to catch Kansas City. You got to run the table and win the next 2 to get to 10. I don't even think that's going to get you in.
Yeah, they're in a bad spot, and you're right, Q. They're going against a defense that's second worst against the run, and they just couldn't move the football. And then conversely, Burkhead had a game of his life. He had 2 touchdowns, 149 yards rushing. He's running downhill on them. They're going against Davis Mills, a rookie quarterback. So you think Brandon Staley, whose defense is supposed to be his calling card coming over from the Rams, and they just have regressed defensively. I know they've had some guys out. Bosa was out. But, they got to find ways to win games because, let's face it, Houston at this point is finishing out the string, and I think they were a little overconfident, and Herbert just couldn't get the ball moving, and, it's just an ugly loss. So they're going to need some help to get in, and now they're tied with the Raiders, who seem to be trying to pull something together at the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't see it happening with neither team. I mean, their saving grace is maybe if you get Miami to falter. I mean, if you think about it, Miami wins the tiebreaker over the Chargers based on best win percentage in common games. They win the tiebreaker over Baltimore based on best win percentage. They also, the divisional tiebreaker would basically eliminate the Raiders. And then you look at the losses with Baltimore's had those close losses. And then you have a veteran quarterback out there. They didn't stand a chance the other day. So Miami is actually sitting pretty. I loved the under last night. Their offense stinks. I mean, if Miami falls behind 13-0 in a playoff game, they're done. I mean, how do you not score more than 20-something odd points last night? I mean, they scored 20 against the Giants, 20 against the Saints, and 17 against the Texans. I mean, this offense does not scare me, but yet you have to give them a ton of credit because they had the long losing streak followed by a long winning streak. What was it, 7 losses and then 7 wins?
Yeah, they won 7 straight games, and you're right. Last night was a layup. Ian Book just was not prepared for the Saints, and they knew that going into the game. But you're right. You wish they had a better ending because, it just seems like they do just enough to beat some bad teams out there. And then, other than Waddle, and they have a couple pieces here and there at the tight end position, but they need to pick it up. And I just think they don't fully trust Tua to run the table and make the big plays out there. They always seem to have these trick plays out there to kind of help him and spur the offense. But they only had one really good drive last night. We're going to see in the next couple of weeks who they are, though. They're at Tennessee, and then they finish with the Patriots. So, Miami has to prove it. Their schedule's been kind of soft, let's face it. And it's going to be interesting to see how they do the next couple of weeks.
Is Dallas the best team right now in the NFC? I mean, we saw that Washington had a bunch of issues the other night. They fell behind 21-0 like that. You had defensive players barking at each other, swinging at each other, which is a horrible look on the sidelines. But your thoughts right now, Tampa, Green Bay, Dallas, right now, who's the best team in the NFC?
Well, the NFC, you need it. They're very top-heavy. They have 4 very good teams, but I'll go with Green Bay. They held on. I know it was an ugly win against Cleveland, but Dallas was impressive. You're right. And all those touchdowns, 56-14 drumming Washington. They just embarrassed them. And they're getting very healthy at the right time in the season. You got DeMarcus Lawrence coming back with a big pick-six, and they're getting after quarterback. So Dallas is right there, but I still think Green Bay has that 1-game lead, and they're going to hold on to it, and the road's going to go through Lambeau and NFC.
Interesting. I think Dallas right now, with that defense, their corners and their secondaries, if you get Rodgers having a bad game, which is so rare, I mean, I know it's very generic to say, but you can throw a little bit on Green Bay. I think that's your best shot to beat them. It would be tough to do if you had to go on the road. But how about Dallas, right? 56 points the other night. And then you got the Eagles. And Sirianni's doing the smart thing, separating the quarterbacks because of all the COVID protocol and safety. Giants put up 0 resistance, even when it was 3-3. Even if you want to make the case that there was a unnecessary roughness call that wasn't on Fromm. He can't play. Glennon stinks. That game's not even worth talking about, except that the Philadelphia Eagles, again, can run the football a little bit. They lose Sanders, but it's all about that offensive line. And right now at 8-7, they've got a wounded Washington team that just gave up 56 points, and then they closed the season against the Dallas Cowboys, who pretty much already wrapped up the NFC East. Now they might potentially be playing for seeding. So, as we talked about over the last several weeks, it's right there for the Philadelphia Eagles.
It is, Q. And I've been beating them up in terms of the schedule. The teams they've beaten are combined 42-77-1. So things have fallen the right way for this team. It was a good win, but I know I heard from a lot of people in the area, it's 3-3 at the half. It should never be that close. And then they just poured it on at the end. So it was a very good win. We'll see how they do at Washington. and then with the Cowboys, you have something to play for. But the Eagles are running the football, as you're saying. Guys didn't contribute. Jordan Howard, as well as Boston Scott. These guys are stepping forward. And then Hurts is running the ball, and then his passing is efficient. So, they're doing just enough right things. They're probably going to get in the playoffs, and then we'll see how it goes. But, the Eagles are on a win streak right now, and the fans are happy.
Who got the game ball this weekend, past weekend?
The game ball I had to give it to Joe Burrow. I mean, that was just incredible, the effort that he put on the fourth. I know they were teasing him about not getting a gold jacket. The Ravens guys were saying that, and he really stuck it to him. 37 of 46, 525 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's the first time somebody's thrown for that many yards with no interceptions, 12 touchdowns. So 41-21 win, and he's looking like he's leading the team to the playoffs, and we'll see if they can win that division. So they got some big games coming up, and but he gets the game ball.
And deservingly so. He's a great young quarterback. How about Lackey?
Lackey, we talked about it earlier. Baker Mayfield, former number 1 overall pick, and he's a guy that he's kind of falling apart. And Cleveland may start thinking about, is he the right guy? Should they get another quarterback? 4 interceptions in that game against Green Bay, and when the game mattered most, he just could not make any plays, so he gets the Lackey.
Yeah, the no call should have been a call, fine. But to your point, 2 of those interceptions were all on him. I mean, they were as bad as you can get kind of picks. And that offensive line hasn't kept them protected. I mean, he was sacked 5 times. And I'm wondering, too, the whole, he doesn't want to throw the ball to Beckham, or was it him, or was it Beckham? You look at his numbers. So if he plays the next 2 games, he played 15 games this season. He had 2,800 yards. Let's say 2 more touchdowns gets him 17. He's already got 3 more picks than he did last year. He threw 26 touchdowns and 3,500 yards, and they had that big win in the playoffs. Everyone, I guess, thought that after last year, all right, here you go. This guy's, this guy's the answer, right? I mean, I think that's kind of how some people looked at it. He had that big win against Pittsburgh where they put up 48. He didn't play that bad against Kansas City. They had an opportunity to win that game. And you're right. I think now we're kind of back to, can you win with him or can you not win with him? And I don't know, man. It's only his 4th season in the league, but it feels like he's been under center for Cleveland for like a decade.
Yes, Q. And now it's Andrew Barry and everything. Jimmy Haslam, the owner there. Everybody's coming up to decide, is he the right guy? And is he worth $35, $40 million a season? So, that's a big question. And that team, as you're saying, has regressed. They started out hot, and if they were smart, they would just hand the ball off to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt comes back. Because, rushing is what that team's all about. And they were blaming it on Odell in terms of the passing yards, but it's definitely Baker Mayfield making some bad decisions out there.
So Schefter was tweeting out NFL and NFLPA now have adopted, which John McMullen said in the 4 o'clock hour was going to happen, the new CDC guidelines that reduced the quarantine time to 5 days from 10 days for all COVID-positive players who are asymptomatic, including those who are unvaccinated per sources. So look at Carson Wentz, right? COVID-19, unvaccinated, big game coming up. It almost seems, it's becoming a joke. I'm not saying COVID is a joke. People take it serious, no doubt. But what I'm saying is, it just, now all of a sudden I can kind of decide what players are important and what players aren't. I don't know. It's just, to me, asymptomatic is probably the key word right there. But it just doesn't make sense. Either protect the players or you don't.
Right, Q. And I think the league is just trying to protect itself and try to keep going. And they know everybody's talking about these guys not being able to play, particularly frontline quarterbacks. And you see the Ravens, they had 33 players either on IR or on the COVID list last week. And, it's affecting the game. So I think they're trying to mitigate something here. But, it has seemed kind of shady to me at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I didn't know this. I was just reading this. This is affects us from our standpoint. they're tweeting out, Jacob Infante is tweeting out, Jeff Dickerson, who covers the Bears, ESPN national reporter, a real good guy, had him on the air several times, radio network host as well. He's passed away. Wow.
Oh, man, it's a shame.
Wow. That's really unbelievable. I mean, man, a lot of media guys, that's why I'm saying, like, you never know, underlining issues or what's going on or what someone's dealing with. I mean, that's not to stray too far off, but, man, you got to put things in perspective. I mean, to be quite honest with you. I mean, we joke and we have fun on the air and we talk about the games and the betting lines and this and that, but there's so much more serious stuff going on out there. And it's kind of to your point. I say that to say this. You're talking about the NFL. They're just consumed by the almighty dollar. That's all it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're definitely, they want these games to be played, and they're trying to point to the playoffs where it'll only be 14 teams that they have to worry about instead of 32. So it'll lower their numbers, and then they'll try to move on to next season. But this definitely is a crisis out here, and the league's they're trying to find a way to survive. But, everybody be careful out there.
All right, let us get to some of these games. We'll start to look at a couple marquee games. We'll get your thoughts. We'll get your picks. So let's start with Falcons, Bills, no. Giants, Bears, I will pass. How about Kansas City against Cincinnati? Kansas City's laying 5. Total number is 49. Juice to the over 49.5. So they got to travel on the road, but it seems like it really doesn't matter if you're Kansas City. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch. Kansas City riding an 8-game winning streak, 22-0 in the months of November and December under Andy Reid. So, this is a big opportunity for them. Cincinnati, don't forget, they're going to put up a lot of points too, because Joe Burrow loves throwing the deep ball. He said 16 this season, so for a touchdown. So I think this is going to be a shootout game. Definitely take the over. I'm going to pull surprise here. I think Cincinnati's going to win this one, and Burrow continues his march to playoffs.
You like Cincinnati in this game?
Yeah, I do. I think they're starting to pull together at the right time. And you think about it, they have a 4,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers, and they're all under 26. So these guys are young, and they're going to, I think they're going to want to protect their home turf here. And Kansas City, this may be a little hiccup on the way to the playoffs, but I think Cincinnati's surprising them.
All right, fair enough. Miami traveling to Tennessee. Both with anemic offenses. If anything, I'm playing the under in this one, 41. But the Titans are laying 3.5. I just get the feeling if they can figure out a way to get to 17 points, that's going to be enough.
I do. And we talked about it earlier. I just don't believe in Tua, and I think they're trying to hide him. And Tannehill's going to want to make some plays against his old team. And, the defense is very underrated for Titans. So I think Byard will make some plays, and they'll win this game in a close one.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Raiders against the Colts with no line. I would imagine the Colts would be at least 2.5, 3-point favor. We'll skip over that one. The Eagles against Washington, that doesn't really resonate with me. And again, we don't have the Ravens situation too. I mean, this is what I'm saying. All these games and all these lines. You got Jimmy Garoppolo with his hand injury. San Fran's laying 12.5. How about Arizona? Here you go. How about Arizona and the Cowboys? Cowboys laying 5.5. Arizona is a very good team on the road. They've only lost once. But the Cowboys are also coming off a game where they scored 56. And if you look at the Cowboys right now, they won 4 straight after a bad loss to the Raiders in which the defense gave up 36. They can get to the quarterback. They're running the football. Lawrence, who's had a handful of games, is starting to be assertive. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Houston. This is a game for Arizona. This is a show-me-something game. Can they end that losing streak and really show who they were the first 7 games this season? Dallas, though, defensively, at every level, they can just get after. And don't forget about Diggs and his 11 interceptions. So I think they'll be able to take advantage of a Cardinals line that they can't block very well. So I think Dallas wins this one. It won't be that huge of a score difference, but I think Dallas wins it, and look at the over in that one, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good play on that one. I might have to take a couple props on that one. Maybe a rushing touchdown by Prescott. If I get over 2 passing touchdowns, I'll probably play that as well. Arizona, I just don't know what happened to them. I really don't. And we were kind of toasting them early on in the season. They've kind of come back down to earth. The only reason I'm going to bring this game up, Minnesota and the Packers, because this is pretty much Minnesota's last stand, and they always seem to play the Packers tight. Sunday night, so you get primetime Kurt, but it's Green Bay laying 6.5, pretty much a touchdown. The total is 47.5.
Yeah, you said the opposite words. It's a primetime game, and we know how Cousins plays when it's primetime games. He usually does not play well, and it's probably going to be a close one, and we'll see if Dalvin Cook's able to come back for the Vikings, because he's going to be the key if they can run the ball against a Green Bay defense that's kind of suspect at times. So it should be a fun one to watch, and we'll see how desperate Minnesota is, because they need this game very badly. But I'll go with Green Bay in a close one.
Last stand here in the AFC North, that aforementioned Browns squad that you mentioned, laying 3 on the road against their rival in Pittsburgh, who comes in with a 7-7-1 record, and they got humbled the other day. I have no idea why I took them in a money line against Kansas City, where they gave up 36 points.
Yeah, this is the one where whose quarterback is worse, because Big Ben, we know that he's practically done, and these are probably his last few games as a starter in the NFL. And we talked about Baker Mayfield, my lackey, this week. So it's going to be fun to see who can run the ball with some precision. And I think in the end it may be Nick Chubb. So I think they hand the ball off to Chubb, and this is a big rivalry game. But the Steelers just have not put up much of a fight, and I think they have some changes coming to their roster. So I think Cleveland in a very close win there.
You don't believe Tomlin's on the hot seat at all, do you? I mean, he never has a losing. I don't think he's ever had a losing season before.
No, he hasn't, and I always joke that they were going to be the first 8-1 team, and it looks like it's going to happen. So, then they'll be 500, but they have a lot to clean up there, particularly our offensive line is young and has some holes, and then we talk about Big Ben and all the problems that he's having this season.
I know it's so fluid when we talk about MVP, but has Rodgers overtaken Brady? Do we throw Burrow into the mix? Are we still looking at Mahomes? I mean, right now, who would be your lead dog in that standpoint? From that?
Yeah, sure. You talked about the big three there. You talked about Rodgers, Mahomes, and Brady, and I think it's going to be one of those three. It's definitely a quarterback award, but right now, if Rodgers keeps winning his games and his team finishes with 13, 14 wins, he's going to be the MVP. So he may be a back-to-back guy.
All right, listen, New Year's ahead of us. Looking forward to 2022 with you contributing as you always do with some great stuff. I always appreciate you jumping on board. Always appreciate you taking the time to call in, talk a little NFL, and look forward to it going forward, pal.
All right, Q. You have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you got it, Lloyd. Be well. There you have it, our guy, Lloyd Vance. Quick timeout.
Automotive Map presents the Sports Class.